You're listening to Power Talk, Berkeley Electric Cooperative's official broadcast about the cooperative, our communities, and ways to use energy wisely. And now, let's join our hosts for today's episode. Good morning and welcome to Power Talk. I am Micah Ponce, the Communications and Media Specialist. I think it's been a minute, so I'm not really sure what I am anymore. This is Power Talk, and I'm Micah. I work here at the co-op. I do various things. But anyway, my co-host today,
including communicate for a living.
See if I can remember her name. Libby Roig, who is the Director of Marketing and Communications. There, see, I know what you do. Don't know what I do. Yeah, we're Power Talk. Hey, yeah. All right, we're back in the saddle.
Micah, yeah. Yesterday morning I was trying to get in the building with my badge and the door hesitated, and I thought, well, do I still work here?
I'm not sure I will after today. We'll see.
The brain and your brain and the door having similar hesitations.
Well, it's been a little bit of a minute since I've done a Power Talk. I was out of the office for a little while, and y'all did some shows without me. Kept the seat warm, but the one who's hopefully going to keep us on track today is our special guest, Miss Yahira Bess, our public relations specialist, and the other lady in my life who tells me what to do. So welcome to the show, Yahira.
Good morning. Glad to be here. Thank you for allowing me to have a seat next to you. I feel so honored and so privileged to be next to my buddy.
There you go.
Yahira, don't strangle him during the show. Wait till after.
Hey, we got to get the ratings somehow.
There we go.
Got to get the clicks somehow.
Well, Mike will probably go after Rob Fowler again.
He still was wrong, I swear. Anyway, folks, we're not talking about weather today, but it is getting a little cooler. We're moving into that time of year when we move into fall festival season, pumpkin spice latte season, but it's also going to be voting season, which is really important to electric cooperatives. That was one of the main principles of electric co-ops is that our members have a voice in the way that their cooperative is run. We're democratically run. Every member has a vote. Every member has a voice. And we have trustees who are elected from our membership to help run the cooperative. So elections and voting are right at the core of everything that we do. And so one of the things that we like to talk about this time of year is a program that the electric cooperatives put forward, and it's called Co-ops Vote. And if you happen to be watching, we've got a very patriotic Miss Bess is waving her little American flag. But speaking of, Yahira, you're the person in charge when it comes to this program. So why don't you give us a little bit of a rundown for the folks who aren't familiar? What exactly is Co-ops Vote?
Well, you pretty much said a lot of it. You did very well.
I'm sorry. Oops. I should have read ahead.
No. This is a team effort, and I love it because Co-ops Vote is not just my baby. It's everyone's baby here. And I just love it because, it's a nonpartisan campaign to boost rural voter turnout. And this is exactly the area that our cooperatives serve is in that rural area. So this program has been such a great success and has a significant impact on voter turnout. Co-ops Vote helps educate our members on issues facing electrical cooperatives. We encourage them to vote, as we mentioned, and, to support their co-ops and the communities that they live in and serve. So, every election, as we always mention, it matters. It's important. Starting with, our local government. That's very important, extremely important. Co-ops Vote ensures the members' voices are heard at local, state, and federal levels. And, they focus on strengthening the connection between the co-op, their members, the employees, and those that serve us in Washington, D.C., the state capital. So, some important key issues for the cooperatives, such as, expanding broadband coverage throughout rural America is one, and ensuring continued access to reliable and affordable electricity. And of course, there's just so much more as well. We want our members and everyone to exercise their right to vote. The freedom to vote in America is the most prominent political right, and that's the reason why I always like to wave my little flag here, because it is, when we think about it, it is also most important because it's a hard-won right. As citizens, and I always stress this to anyone, even our high school students, because it is our responsibility. It's a duty for us to act, and by us acting, we have to register. That's the first step. Check the registration status because that's important. And then find your polling location and go vote. And Co-ops Vote, it is so easy and so simple because that's what it is. It's vote.coop, and that's where you can get information, learn about, your elected officials, find key voter information, and of course, register to vote.
And doesn't it also provide like information about pending legislation that might affect electric cooperatives?
Yeah.
Because, one of the things that we always, power isn't necessarily an interesting topic, to most people until they don't have power anymore. Right. But there's a lot that goes into regulation of the power industry. And the EPA is always reviewing and renewing rules, and those type of things have a direct impact on our ability to serve our members.
Yeah.
So if the EPA comes out with a new rule that says we have to do X, Y, Z, then that might affect, the folks who generate power that we buy power from. And so all of that trickles downhill. And there's always other legislation that's pending out there that has direct effects on the industry. And it can be complicated.
Yes.
So if you go to vote.coop, it's
C-O-O-P.
It's got a wealth of information. So if there's any pending legislation that might be out there that might be affecting us and our ability to serve our members, it gives you a pretty good breakdown of what the legislation means, how it will affect co-ops specifically, and then like Ira said, it gives you information to be able to reach out to your local legislators and your state legislators if you feel like you need to make your voice heard.
Yeah.
That's right.
And we actually are going to talk about another program that also helps facilitate a lot of that information sharing a little bit later in the show. So if you're interested in learning more, stay tuned. But, in some ways, it seems like the election should have already come and gone. We've been in this election season for, a decade now?
Yeah, it's like Christmas. It comes earlier every year.
Yeah. But it's still, this is September, so we're still months away from the election. And, it has been a long primary season and eventful primary season. I was talking to my son a couple weeks ago, and he's 9. So he asked if he could run for president. And I was like,
love it. I love it.
Someday, but not right now, buddy. I think the age requirement's 35.
Yep, 35, yep.
Yep. And then he asked if he could vote. And I said, not yet, got maybe another 9 years. But I said, you can come with us to vote. And but, voting's very important. I'm excited that my son's excited about participating in the democracy. But we have kind of an unofficial national holiday coming up, right? The National Voter Registration Day. What is that, and why is it important?
Yeah. So including, like I mentioned before, Co-ops Vote, along with the National Rural Electric Cooperative Association, are, again, the primary partners of our National Voter Registration Day. So National Voter Registration Day, it's a national holiday celebrating our democracy held each year in September. And it's always that third Tuesday of September, never fails. This year, September 17th is that day.
Couple of days away.
Yes. Super excited. I normally get like goosebumps because, like I said, I love that your son is so engaged, but I give kudos to you and to your hubby because, y'all are the example. And I always say y'all are the role models. So if we can have more of role models, moms, dads, community leaders, giving our youth, even our teachers, talk about this great, program, not only that, but their actual right, like your voice is your power. And I love that, Battle is doing that. He's like preparing himself.
Very excited.
Yes. And I love that he's like, I want to go for president. That's right, dude. Go for that.
Well, I grew up in a household like that where my parents were always talking about what was going on, in Washington, and just very engaged in the process. And I was excited to get registered to vote, and it was very easy to get signed up, and have voted in every election that I could, city elections, and a lot of times there's these little one-off elections. So you do have to kind of pay attention. I know the big presidential elections always get the most attention. But there's lots of elections happening throughout the year sometimes, and keeping up to date with that and making sure you vote in all of them is so very important.
Well, especially like when you're saying with the smaller elections too, like the local school board elections,
right.
your local
City
town council, city council, those literally come down to 1 or 2 vote differences in a lot of cases. So if you ever wanted an example of having your vote count, I mean, you literally could make the difference between your candidate that you support getting elected or not, whether or not you show up to the polls that day. So, I mean, that's a little bit different. At the national level, people have a little bit of, like we said, seems like it's unending. We've been in this cycle for a long time. And unfortunately, unlike battle, a lot of young people seem to be getting very fatigued. They don't, it's been on the airwaves so long, and you've been just overwhelmed that a lot of people are sort of checking out. They're just sort of like, I can't deal with this anymore. And so their lack of interest in participating in the process has sort of fallen off. But like, once again, the only way that you can cut through all that and make a difference, I mean, this is your one choice. I mean, your one chance is to be able to go and make your voice heard by going out there and casting a vote, because if you don't do it, things aren't going to change. So enough of those folks who just, you got to throw off the fatigue and go out there and just cast your vote, and you can make a difference. You can, one vote at a time.
Well, and to me, that's what voting is the hope that our future will be better. Every time I go to the polls, that's right. That's what I'm envisioning is, okay, hopefully things will continue to improve and be better for my son, in the coming years than they are now. And so voting with hope is always how I approach things.
And we don't want our young, our young folks to tap out, as Micah was saying. We don't want that. It is so important. And that's the reason why Co-ops Vote, I just love it for what it stands for. I always say we live in a great nation. America is awesome. We just have that democracy where we have the right. And Co-ops Vote doesn't tell you who, it just stresses the importance of why you have to go out and vote. So as my 18-year-olds or soon to be 18-year-olds, please, 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 if you're listening, we need you. Do your duty and go out there, register and vote, because that's your voice. That's your power.
And we were just recently, speaking of young people, at Stratford High School to sign up some kiddos. We love being in the schools and doing what we can to help enrich the education process in the Tri-County. But, getting new voters added to the rolls is a great way to make an impact.
And I love their enthusiasm. Like you talk to them and they just seem so engaged. And it could be because they know they're entering into adulthood now, like, ooh, this is part. And you think about it, you turn 18 and you have to make important decisions. You're graduating, you're going into the next season of your life. And this next season of your life, guess what? Part of voting is part of that. So I love talking to our high school kids and, like, as you mentioned, being out there with the students and getting the information out there, because they're asking you all these questions. And you're like, oh, I love that they are so engaged and they want to know the process and how it all works.
How you remember a couple of years ago when we were poll workers.
Yes.
And this is a little off plan for the show, but it was a long day.
But tons of fun.
But so much fun. And I just remember as new people would come through, this is my first time voting, they're a little nervous and intimidated, and just how celebratory the atmosphere was at the Johns Island polling location where we were working. And it is something to celebrate and be excited about and
encourage them. Like, you guys did it. You guys made it. You overcame that fear, because that's what it is. Sometimes with you not knowing, overcoming the fear, and then them coming out to the polls voting. I love it that we had a good support group out there, supporting, engaging, motivating, and inspiring these young people that it was their first time coming out and vote. And
being a poll worker, it is a paid position. It is a very long day. It's 14 hours maybe. It's very long, but it is also just reaffirming, and exciting to be a poll worker. So if you can consider, you do have to go through some training. to go through the process. So I don't know that it's too late for this election.
And the training is not hard at all.
No.
So I believe like if that's something that you're interested in doing, yes, you can always, get more information. But I think it's so important because it also opens your eyes to the behind the scenes of what takes place.
Yeah, definitely.
And if you're a seasoned voter, your job's not over yet, because
right.
I mean, one of the things that everybody needs to do before the election rolls around is to go check your voter registration, because a lot of times things do change. They can redistrict you. Sometimes they try to refresh the voter rolls and you might have gotten accidentally left off. So, before you head to the polls, just do a quick check, make sure your voter registration is up to date. And then one of the parts, that is intimidating sometimes if you get up there and you really don't know a lot about the candidates or a lot about the issues, just do that little bit of extra homework. It doesn't take real long. Internet's out there these days. You can do some quick searches on who the candidates are, what they stand for, and just feel more prepared when you walk through the door when it comes time to vote.
And most times you can find a sample ballot for your precinct and see exactly who's going to be on there, what amendments are being proposed, and use that to kind of do your research. I've done that with my husband, is print that off, and he and I will discuss, the merits of X, Y, and Z, and kind of have our game plan before we go in. And you can take something like that with you, So, yes, please, if you're already registered, double check your registration status, where you're voting. Sometimes the precinct locations move, depending on the population. But and have a loose game plan, But even if you don't have a loose game plan,
just
make sure you go.
Share some grace.
Yeah.
Yes. Have some patience and just, share some grace with everyone out there that day.
Yeah.
And those amendments definitely take research, because the way they write them, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say yes or if I'm supposed to say no, the way they write them sometimes. So, I mean, you got to have a good grasp of that amendment when you get up there.
Well, and sometimes the number of double, triple negatives, you've got to do some math sometimes. It's like, wait, does that turn it on or off? I'm not sure what's happening here.
Well, folks, if you're just joining us, we are talking all things fall. No, not pumpkin spice, but voting season and National Voter Registration Day, and the programs that the electric cooperatives have to encourage voters to go out there and take, their democratically guaranteed right to have their voice heard in local, state, and even cooperative elections.
Yeah.
So we got that coming up down the line, because fall is going to be, Berkeley Electric. We've got our annual meeting of members that's going to be coming up in November, folks. And so just don't, mark your calendar. I think it's the second and third week of November. It's
a little bit later this year. They're trying to get it away from the national election. And also Thanksgiving falls a little bit late this year. So it's a little bit later. Yeah.
So, just check your South Carolina Living magazine. Follow us on social, and we'll make sure that we get you out all the information you need for that. But back on topic, we're talking about things like voter registration and the programs that the co-ops have, and we're talking about, co-ops vote. And we've talked sort of a little bit about why it's important for the members and for the general folks, but what else makes co-ops vote so important as a program?
Yeah. So co-ops vote is important because we need to elect public officials who understand and support the issues that matter to the 42 million consumers who we serve by, of course, electric cooperative across the nation. So voters want to hear from community leaders like the co-ops about important issues. You want these elected public officials to stand up for the cooperatives, the concerns, their members, and the community. So that's very, very important. And that's the reason why I'm wearing my handy dandy co-ops vote button. I did bring some for you guys. And look, I even have my little cute go out and vote Uncle Sam button. Isn't that adorable? Yeah, I'm going to get you one, Micah.
Thank you.
No details too small.
Exactly, right? But no, Co-ops Vote is an important initiative by our national organization, as I mentioned, which is NRECA. Another important initiative is the online grassroots movements, Voices for Cooperative Power. And, we call that VCP for short. So if you ever hear, one of our employee staff, we're out in the community, out in events, and you hear about VCP, VCP is a program that makes it easy for our co-op supporters to learn about and view on important policies that affect co-ops and the communities we serve.
So VCP was something that Berkeley Electric started helping share information with our members this past state legislative session, because there was a bill proposed that would help create some new electric generation in the state for the first time in a long time. And we desperately need more generation in South Carolina, not only South Carolina, but the Southeast. And, folks are putting up solar panels every day, battery storage, that technology is getting better every day. But we need some good base load generation. That's typically been more fossil fuel oriented, but it's that dependable power that works no matter whether
24 hours a day.
Yeah,
Yep.
sun shining, winds blowing. It's that solid, reliable, affordable power. So the state desperately needs that. But Berkeley Electric is trying to help spread the word about VCP, Voices for Cooperative Power. Yara, can you? Kind of like Co-ops Vote, it's an educational tool, but can you tell us a little bit more about how it helps spread information to members?
So with VCP, it's awesome. It's very easy, simple to use. It's, an online grass tool. And normally, in the past, we used to do door-to-door campaigning, phone calls, and handwritten letters, which I remember those. And now we can also do everything digitally.
Yeah.
So, thank goodness for technology, because that's come a very long way. So for our member supporters, digitally based, meaning you get your email, social media, it's an educational tool when necessary, and VCP will notify you when there's a need to contact policymakers to make a clear where we stand on important issues locally, nationally. So if you ever have a question, well, how do I, get signed up? You can. It's very easy. It doesn't ask you millions of questions. It's, short, sweet, to the point. And it's voluntary. So I just want to make that clear as well. If you don't agree with co-op stands on an issue, you don't have to do anything. But I love it because it will send you notifications through your email, on different issues, important issues that could be going on around your area. So I love it. And, for co-ops, important show of importance that we can activate in real time. Tens of thousands of people reach out to their state legislators this past session. So I think that's one of the key things, how with technology and now with this new program, VCP, it has just, magnified that platform of communication on different issues on how we can just get that across to our members.
And these are both really powerful tools. We've got Co-ops Vote and Voices for Cooperative Power to help our members engage in the democracy. Yes. And I kind of see Co-ops Vote as being more of a voter education tool where you can learn, your what issues are coming up on the ballot and how to vote, your registration status, that sort of thing. And Voices for Cooperative Power, different from the actual act of voting, it's more kind of watching the different legislative issues as they come through. And like Yahira said, as an issue comes up that the cooperative has a firm stance on and we need your help telling that story, we'll send you an email, or there'll be an ad in your social media feed if you follow VCP. For you, then you can choose to reach out to your legislators, and that's both federal and state on this particular issue. And like I mentioned earlier, we had some good success with that during the state legislative session most recently with that new generation bill. Lots of co-op members spoke up and expressed their support for the legislation, and it's been tabled for now, but we're hoping to get some new generation for the state. But these are both great tools for our members to check out and learn more just how to participate in the democracy.
And I think, Yahira mentioned it early on, and I think it bears repeating, is that all of these tools and all of these policy stances and whatnot, these are for educational purposes only. Cooperatives, like we said, we're nonpartisan. We're not trying to tell you you should vote for this party or you should vote for that party or you should or shouldn't go vote against this bill. We try to make you aware of the issues and then give you the knowledge, and then you make your decision, and then you go out there and vote based on how you think is going to be most beneficial for you and your family.
What aligns with your values.
What aligns with your values. A lot of the things that we're trying to bring up, though, are pocketbook issues. That's where the rubber hits the road, really. You hear all these fancy terms and all those legalese, and at the end of the day, those policies and those legalese statements will have an effect on your pocketbook. And as a not-for-profit member-owned cooperative, that's one of the things that we are very aware of, and we try to provide that service near cost, as close to cost as we can. So we're not out to make a profit. We return the capital credits at the end of the year. Whenever we have a profit, we give those margins. Margins.
Joel's going to get you.
I know. The margins go back to the members at the end of the year whenever we have them available. So, these are the things that we're trying to let y'all know about. And like Hira said, if you're interested in signing up for Voices for Cooperative Power, which gives you more of those call to action type of things, those real-time issues that we would like a little bit of support for, you just go to voicesforcooperativepower.com, or you can follow VCP on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Well, folks, I'm not sure we got too much more to go, do we?
Well, just another shout out for National Voter Registration Day. It's coming up in a couple of days. So Tuesday, September 17th, if folks can use that day, even if you are registered, just take a moment, check out your status, and, make sure you know where you're voting this year, and or, maybe help get somebody else registered, if you know a young person or maybe a not young person that hasn't registered yet. Maybe you can help them.
And just to remind our members and our audience, what we're trying to do is with Co-op Voter, just commit today to make your voice heard. Every election, that matters because it's very important. Get reminders about upcoming events through VCP, and recruit your friends, families, coworkers to become a co-op voter today.
And then, it's also a good time to start, making those plans for the actual voting day. I mean, if you've got folks around you who haven't been voting before, encourage them to do it. If they need a ride to the polls, you can offer somebody a ride to the polls, and, just make it a party. Go out there and have a good time. A party for democracy.
That's right. I'm all about that.
We're all set up for a party in here with our red, white, and blue. In case you checking out on YouTube.
Yeah, if you're listening to us on J&I, you got to check out our YouTube channel, and you get to see our smiling faces.
That's right. That's right. Yes. And then, as you mentioned, please follow us, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. It's just so important, so that way you can get all the updates, all the information that you need on what's going on.
Micah, what was your first election?
First election, God. I remember my first political rally. I've actually been to one of those, but it was Jimmy Carter, the Peanut Man. That's how I remembered him when I was a young lad back in the day. It's actually probably the only political rally that I've been to for like a presidential election that I can recall. So, 18 years old. It was one of Clinton, Bush. It might have been Clinton. Clinton before Clinton. I can't remember. Reagan. It goes.
Right, stop.
It was Reagan or Clinton or somebody back in the day. I don't know. I went in there. I pushed a button. It was just one of those things.
Well, great.
What a scintillating story.
At least he did his civil duty.
He did indeed.
No, and that is one of the things I will say. I mean, I do the little local elections.
Yeah.
I make sure that I go out there. My wife has actually served on a town planning council before.
That sounds like a bad idea.
Well, that's a voluntold position.
Yeah.
You volunteer for it, and then you realize, what did I do? But yeah, so it's important for folks to get involved on every level. Even if it's something simple as serving on, like I said, a town planning commission.
Yeah.
I mean, those are vitally important for development of neighborhoods, and Lord knows we've got enough of those coming through.
Oh boy!
So that's really important. But even your local water and soil districts, those are important.
HOAs.
Or HOAs. Those are 4-letter words for most folks, so not so sure about that. But definitely at the end of the day, folks, all we're asking is that you be active in your voting process. Be aware. Just go out there and do what you can to take part in the voting process, and do your part to be a fellow American.
Well, and it's easy to get down on stuff, particularly if you're watching any of the 24-hour news stations.
Right, yeah.
But there are so many good people in the world, in this country, and if you look at the bright side and have some hope when you go out to the polls, your vote can make a difference.
Yeah. Well, folks, I think that's going to do it for us today. Thank you for tuning in to Power Talk, and this is the official broadcast of your electric cooperative, and you can catch up on past episodes on streaming platforms like Spotify, Apple, and iHeartRadio. And as always, get a behind-the-scenes look at Yahira waving her flag on our Berkeley Electric's YouTube channel. So until next time, this is Power Talk, signing off.